Namaskar everyone, this is Meenakshi Narula and I welcome you to my channel Mentoring the Mentors. As we have been talking about various Pramanas, so in today's video, we are going to talk about Anuman. Yes, Anuman is a kind of Praman as per Indian epistemology. So we are going to discuss the same in detail. So these are the actually 6 Pramanas as you can see here on the screen. And we are going to discuss today. Yes, as you can see here, we will be talking about Anuman. Anuman, the second Pramana that we are going to discuss. What exactly Anumana is? Anuman means the inference, making inference, drawing inferences, making Anuman. This involves drawing conclusions or making inferences based on observed facts or evidence moving from the particular to general, right? When we observe something in particular and then we conclude something, we go to general. So this happens in Anuman. It is based on observations and drawing conclusions. We'll be talking about the same in detail. The term Anuman is derived from Anu and Man. Anu means after knowledge, right? Anuman, we have knowledge about something. We observe something, we have some knowledge, and then we start making anumans. It means knowledge that follows after perception. First we perceive and then we relate to some knowledge. We infer something based on evidence and reasoning. For example, seeing smoke on a distant hill and concluding that there is a fire. Like हम देखते हैं कहीं पर धुआं है तो आग जरूर जल रही होगी, right? So it means we are making anumans. Unlike Prataksha Praman, how it is different from that, in Prataksha Praman, we directly perceive something, right? अगर हम आग को खुद जलता हुआ देखते हैं, we see there is a fire, that is called Prataksha Praman. But when we are not able to see the fire, we are able to see the smoke and we are making Anuman. We are generalizing it because smoke is related to fire, right? And then we make Anuman, yes, there is fire somewhere. So Anuman Praman allows us to understand things that are not immediately visible by using logical connections. So that's a clear difference. In Prataksh Praman, we see something that is Prati Aksh in front of our eyes. In Anuman, something that we don't see clearly, but we see some evidence and based on that we generalize and we come to some conclusion, we draw inferences, and then we make some knowledge. So we get some knowledge from that. This is called Anuman, right? So this is what we have just discussed, the summary of that. So now there are different steps of Anuman. It's not like that we have seen something and then after that we have just made Anuman. There are various steps, logical, because this is logic. Logic also every time follows some certain steps. So what is there inside? First of all, it's pratigya or proposition, the statement or claim to be proven. When we are going to prove something, there is a statement that we have to prove. That is called pratigya or proposition. That is a claim, right? Now here the statement or the claim to be proven is there is fire on the mountain, right? Fire on the mountain. And the next step is hetu. Hetu is reason. That is, we need to find a cause. It's the reasoning. So the logical reason which supports the claim. Here the reason is because there is a smoke. On what basis we are saying there is fire on the hill? Because there is a smoke. So this is hetu, this is the reason. And then the third step is uddaran. Uddaran is example, validation, illustration. We have to give some example. So providing a universally accepted example. It should not be something that is accepted to me or someone else. That must be universally accepted. Universally accepted is wherever there is smoke, there is fire, right? So that's why we have given that example, that Uttaran. Now next is Upanyan, right? Upanya is application, logic. So applying the example to the present case. That example, the Uddaran that has been given, we have to apply the same now in this case, right? The mountain has a smoke, so it must have fire. And the last step is Nigaman. It's final confirmation of the inference when we conclude something. Conclusion, Nigaman, we deduce something, we conclude something. So therefore, the mountain has fire. Now let's quickly have a look at these 5 steps. First is Pratigya. Pratigya is the statement that we give. And then second one is the reason. Reason is we need to, where there should be a logical reason. What is the cause for that? And next we give example, right? And then we need to apply that example in this present case. And then final is the conclusion. So these are the 5 steps we need to follow when we are talking about Anuman. So Anuman is not something like how much sugar is to be added in this cup and just general Anuman. It also has some certain steps, right? If I add sugar to 1 cup, this much, maybe half a spoon, and how much sugar I need to add if I am making 5 cups, right? I have to make some Anuman accordingly. So it has certain steps for that. So next, my dear educator, let's look at some different examples. Let's take one more example. It is rain prediction, right? Now the statement is it will rain soon. Now it will rain soon. This is pratigya. This is proposition. It's a statement. Next, we have to give hetu. Hetu is reason. Dark clouds, they are gathering in the sky. So that is the reason. After looking at the dark clouds, we are giving the statement, it will rain soon. Now we have to give an example. Whenever dark clouds form, it usually rains like during monsoons. So that's the example that we have given. Now next is the application. We have to apply this very example. Now in this case, in the sky is covered with dark clouds, so rain is expected. So now conclusion is, therefore, it will rain soon, right? So these are the 5 steps. I'll give you more examples so that you can understand it well. Next example is here, ice is cold. The proposition is, pratigya is ice is cold. Next reason is touching ice gives a cooling sensation. Because touching ice gives cooling sensation. That's why we say ice is cold. So now we have to give the udharan or the example. Udharan or the example, all frozen substances like ice cream, they feel cold to touch. Now next is the application. Since ice is a frozen substance, so it must be cold. Therefore, ice is cold, right? So this is how we come to conclusion after various steps. Now next, one more example. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. This is the proposition we have given. Now, the reason is when we heat water, it turns into steam at a high temperature. That's the reason. And any liquid, when heated beyond its boiling point, converts into vapors. For example, milk, soup, etc. So, and the application is, since water is also a liquid, it must have specific boiling point. Therefore, it boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Means as and when we come to some kind of conclusion, we need to follow these kinds of steps. This is there in Anuman. One more example. If we have got a proposition, a dog is an animal, right? So now the reason is dog has life, it breathes, it moves. Now what all are the features of the living beings we are talking about? Now the example is, example should be universally accepted. So all beings that breathe and move like cats and cows are all animals. So since now we have to apply, since a dog also breathes and moves, and maybe some other features too. I mean, we have added only a few features because animals, they have certain features. So if we have to talk about particular genre or species, then also we have some particular examples over there, right? We have to give some those reasons. And the next one is conclusion. Therefore, the dog is an animal. Now coming to the next point. The next example here in front of you on the screen. Now this is one more example. What is there in the picture? You can see the dark clouds. After looking at the dark clouds, what do you say? What can you say? It's going to rain, isn't it? So this is what Anuman you are making based on dark clouds in the sky, right? Now, after any medical diagnosis, the doctor comes to some conclusion, like you have got these symptoms, they are there. You have got fever, you have got cough, you have got body ache. So during these symptoms, this is the disease. So maybe the doctor concludes you are suffering from this very disease. So again, this is also considered Anuman. Now here, forensic science, and when you see, you can see this kind of situation. right? Do you remember CID kind of thing? So here, after footprints, they are there. Now, after checking the footprints, the fingerprints, they are also being diagnosed. Now, after checking the fingerprints, they'll come to some conclusion, like who was there, right? What has happened? So based on what is present, we start making Anuman, we draw the inferences. So these are the examples of Anuman. Or maybe what has happened over here? The wet road, maybe somewhere, because it's a road, had it been a kacha road, there must have been some puddles too. So wet road means it just rained. That's why the roads are wet. So that's also we are making Anuman. We have not seen the rain happening, but after this we can make Anuman. Yes, it just rained. That's why the roads are wet. So we make Anuman, right? Now, let's talk further. We'll be talking about limitations of Anuman Pramana. As we discussed, there are some limitation of Pratyaksh too. Number one, we can't see anything on our own. And another one, everybody has own drishtikon. So that's why Pratyaksh has some limitations. So limitations of Anuman Praman is, first of all, possibility of incorrect inference can be there. Inference may not always be accurate. For example, if I am coughing, it doesn't mean that I have some serious illness, some serious disease. It may happen because of choking or maybe something else. Maybe I have eaten something that was allergic to me. So, I mean, incorrect inference can be there. And then there can be fallacy in reasoning. Logical errors can be there. If the premise is wrong, conclusion will always be wrong. Garbage in, garbage out. So errors in logic lead to false conclusions. Next, dependence on a reliable premise. Now, logical conclusions rely on accurate observations. The observation should be correct. It also happens like maybe I'm not observing it correctly. I have missed some parts. Maybe I have not seen it properly. I have not jotted down, collected the information properly. So accordingly, I will come to a conclusion which is not correct. So flawed premise weakens the inference. Now, example is misinterpreting bird flight, assuming all birds fly, but incorrectly inferring that penguins can fly. If we infer accordingly, so it means that is Anuman is wrong. Okay, so we have to gather the exceptions as well. Logic should also be there. Now let's talk about Anuman Praman in Indian philosophy. In a Nyaya school, it strongly relies on inference, an essential means of attaining knowledge, and it emphasizes logic and reasoning. I have already said that it emphasizes logic and reasoning. And if we talk about Vedanta, it uses inference but prioritizes direct experience. That is a Pratyaksh Praman. So scriptural testimony, that is Shabd, that we are going to talk about in the next video, is given more importance. Reliable it is as compared to Anuman. Seeks spiritual realization before inference, right? And as per Buddhism, it uses logical inferences in debates, enjoys reasoning in philosophical discussions, and inference helps in understanding the impermanence and emptiness. Now, this is basically for those who are appearing for B.Ed. M.Ed. exams, but otherwise, if you are just generally understanding what is Anuman, this is more than enough for you. 5 steps you should remember, right? Number 1, the 5 steps is pratigya, proposition, and the second one is hetu, and next we give example, next is application, and the last one is conclusion, right? These are the 5 steps, and you should remember these 5 steps for Anuman. Based on something that has happened, we have to just apply our logic from general, from specific, that is from particular to general, we need to move, right? What has happened, like we have given you example of smoke and fire. So how we as teachers can use Anuman in the classroom, right? This is a question for us, all of teachers. Number 1, it encourages logical thinking. Ask the students to derive conclusions and avoid getting the direct answers. Don't come to the answer quickly. Follow the steps. So it promotes the reasoning skills. Using science experiments, they observe, they infer, and through hands-on approach to learning. So they come to understand when they follow various steps. In mathematics also, they can identify the patterns, they can check the connections, they'll be able to solve the problem using logical steps. So this strengthens the deductive reasoning. And in debates and discussions too, it encourages the logical arguments. Like, do argue, but there should be some logic based on that. So use evidence to support reasoning, and it develops the critical thinking skills. Let's take an example of metals here. Give students a metal ring and a ball, heat the bell and observe the changes, infer why it no longer fits through the ring. This is experiment that we usually do in middle school classes, right? So we are talking about expansion of metals. So this is just example, like they are making Anuman based on what has happened. They deduce the information, they observe something particular, and they reach the general, right? Through some examples, reasoning, those 5 steps, they are there. Right? So what is the importance? This is the importance that we have been talking about. It can be applied in different fields, and understanding beyond direct perception. It helps us to go beyond what is visible to our eyes. What is not prataksh to us, we can go beyond that through Anuman. It aids in logical reasoning used in science, philosophy, in daily life. And see, there are a few examples like drawing conclusions, understanding abstract concepts, making predictions, like what is going to happen based on that, the weather forecasting, etc. And developing critical thinking because it encourages logical analysis, it avoids false assumptions, strengthening decision making, etc. And what is the role of teachers? We need to integrate inference based learning, right? Now come to this point, start having inference based learning in your class. Though you are doing in science, mathematics, some hypothesis is there, and then you try to prove the same, and then applying reasoning in studies using inference in real decisions, whatever they decide, right? Any statement they make, just teach them and hold them like how they should come to conclusion, not directly going to the conclusion, but they need to follow the steps that are there. So my dear educators, this is all about Anuman. If you appreciate me sharing such kinds of videos, do subscribe to my channel and share the feedback in the comment section. Recommend my videos to others too. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, stay blessed.